Hi, I'm Mike Spring. I'm the writer and publisher of Out of Time Comics, and I also write about movies all over the place. And your childhood was trash if you didn't watch The Goonies.
Oh my God! What? That's my mom's most favorite.
We've worked this topic into a bunch of episodes before.
Right.
Never officially, but Goonies is one of my all-time favorite movies. Right. I've seen it 100 million times.
Yeah. Right.
And I'll see it 100 million times more. It's so great because it's one of the few movies that stands the test of time. Like, you can watch it today and it seems like it's a modern movie, just a modern adventure movie, and it's so good. Do you remember the first time you saw the movie?
Pretty much I do, yes. Yeah, I definitely have some, like I was probably, well, I don't like to ever tell my real age, but I would say I was under 10 when the Goonies came out, even though I'm only 27 now. Don't do that, man. But I definitely remember going to see it in theaters. I think my family went to go see it. It might have been, I feel like I saw it twice, like in the first weekend it came out. I think like I went to see it with my family, and then I went with a bunch of friends, or invited some friends because I was too young to go by myself and see it. And it just went back and saw it right all over again, like a couple of days later. And then it was just, the endless stream of watching it on video over and over and over again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's where I caught it, the ABC movie of the week or whatever, the first time. And it's such a good story. And all those characters, they're not, none of them are throwaways.
Right.
That's what's so good about that movie, is they're all individual characters with their own kind of growth and arc in the movie. Mm-hmm. And they all have their unique individual personalities that stand out. And it's not like no one gets lost in the mix.
Right. Which is, for a movie about a bunch of kids, especially, is so hard to do. You know what I mean? Because kids movies in general aren't necessarily great at, developing characters. And, you look at some other, movies like, I think of movies like, which do it well to some extent, but I think of like the Mighty Ducks, right? Which I love. Yeah. I'm a huge Mighty Ducks fan. I think it's a perfect sports movie. But really, like, half the kids are kind of disposable, and then there's like 3 or 4 kids who really are the main characters. You know what I mean? And understandably, you only have so much time in a film, but Goonies with 7 kids, and it's like, to give them all their due and all memorable characters whose names by the end, and who all, like you said, have kind of each have their own personality and feel like real kids. That's a real feat, I think. I think that's why the movie's so enduring.
Yeah, and I mean the young talent that they got too, which is crazy. What, like, you see them where they were then and where they are now, and I mean, Corey Feldman's on a comeback kick right now with his music career. Yeah, he's a household name again.
It's funny because, like, the Goonies started my lifelong obsession with Corey Feldman. You know what I mean? Like, and I say that unironically. Like, to this day, I am still like, there's a few people from like my youth that I will still unabashedly always be a fan of. Corey Feldman is one of them. Vanilla Ice is another one. I don't care. I love Vanilla Ice. You can say what you want about him. I think he's awesome.
That's because if you have a problem, he'll solve it. Every time.
Especially if it's flipping houses.
That's right. Yeah.
He'll solve those problems.
Yeah,
too.
Exactly. But like Corey Feldman, it's like, I for years after Goonies, especially when he was still really busy at the time, I would watch every movie he made. Then he disappeared for a while, obviously. And interestingly enough, like, I go to New York Comic Con every year as press, and I do interviews mostly with, TV and movie stars and stuff like that. And the first year I went to New York Comic Con was 2009. And the very first interview I did there was Corey Feldman.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it was amazing. And it was like, just, it was a round table, room full of, journalists. And it was a lot looser back then, New York Comic Con. It was a little easier to get the door. But I still work with that same press contact now, 15 years later. Nice. But, we got 10 minutes or so asking questions, and then it was one of the few press rooms. And again, this was early days, so there wasn't as many actual journalists, but one of the few press rooms where, when it was over, everybody actually pulled out things to get autographs on. Usually in the press rooms, people will get like selfies with the stars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Rare you see people getting stuff autographed, but like Corey Feldman, people were just like, "Will you sign my Lost Boys? Will you sign my Goonies?" This and that. I did get a picture with him. I did get a selfie with him that I still is one of my like treasured possessions. Like he was, because I think, not to ramble too long here, but
keep it. Just keep going.
Me, like, I think here's my theory. Everybody identifies with one of the Goonies, right? Everyone picks their Goonie that they see themselves on screen, right? For me, as you're probably picking up on, it was the one named Mouth, right? Like, I quite literally speak for a living. I'm a corporate trainer at work. I talk all day long. It's what I do. And so, a character named Mouth who's sarcastic and funny and, a little bit acerbic and like never shuts up and like, like, that's me, like that's how I really have to like to think of myself, especially as a kid, like I wanted to be him, and so
he was so cool.
My Goonie. What's that?
He was so cool.
He was so cool. Exactly.
Like he was the one cool Goonie, right?
Yes. He could translate Latin. Come on.
Right. But they're all like, they're all like slightly the nerdy kids, obviously, and he's the one that's kind of like slightly cooler than the rest, and he's got that monologue, the whole, well, you see this one right here, this was my wish, my dream, and it didn't come true, so I'm taking it back, I'm taking them all back, right? Like, come on,
good.
It's a great moment,
good.
So he was my Goonie, and I've just always been a fan ever since then, and he probably isn't even he's not even the biggest star to come out of that movie when you got Sean Astin right next to him and Josh Brolin right next to him.
Josh Brolin, geez,
what's he done?
Yeah. Late career, like, I mean, he's always been a working actor, but like, the last decade or so, he's really
blew up,
household name,
yeah, well, a little bit more than Sean Astin at this point, but
sure.
There was like the early 2000s, Sean Astin, like with Lord of the Rings, and he was doing, he was in a couple Adam Sandler movies and Rudy.
Yep. I mean, did Stranger Things not that long ago, so that's that was big. But
he what?
Yeah, he did Stranger Things, for a
that's
season.
True.
He was just yesterday get a review copy of a new movie on Blu-ray called The Invisible Raptor. Yes, an invisible cloned velociraptor.
That's amazing.
And Sean Astin, tag, and he is on the cover and everything. I was like, oh, Sean needed a paycheck. That's not the high water mark of his career. But although I haven't watched it yet, maybe
it could be fantastic. Yeah.
In all fairness, they pulled out like with the Sharknado movies on that aspect, like everybody was like, I want to be in a Sharknado movie.
Right.
It was like, I just want to be in it. So they found a way to put everybody in it, whether they were A actors, probably no A actors, but like B, C, D, E actors, whatever.
Yep.
People you were like, oh, that person's even still alive. I did not know that. But
Abe in Sharknado, who knew?
Right?
Kidding.
I mean, no, there was a few people I was like, wow, all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sean Astin, he's been consistently, in things over the past decade.
Yeah.
Even like TV shows and any number of things.
Yep.
I did learn through my daughter that he narrates the Captain Underpants cartoon.
Really? I did not realize that, actually. That's a big deal, though. Captain Underpants is huge with the kids. You know what I mean? Like,
she recently got into it, and I'm like, okay, like, all right.
Yeah.
It's not the worst thing in the world.
No, definitely not.
My 3-year-old got into Curious George, and then hearing William H. Macy narrate that for the first like 3 or 4 seasons, so I was like, baffled.
It's amazing who pops up and what. You know what I mean?
Like George Carlin and Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yeah. That's right. We used to watch a lot of that when my kids were young.
It doesn't make you wonder, like, are they pulling in favors? Are they doing it for their kids? Are they hurting for money? Like, what is the reasoning behind all that? Like,
I mean, I think it's a lot of those things. I've actually worked in the voiceover world for a long time,
nice.
for a while as a profession, but also as a side gig. And I think a lot of it comes down to like, not to be cynical, because I think, like, I'm sure William H. Macy probably loves Curious George, you know what I mean, or loves doing something for kids. But I think also, to some extent, it's a fairly easy job for an actor. It's so much less time consuming than anything on camera. It's like you show up in your sweatpants, you record for 2 hours, and you get a nice paycheck, and you get to do something that's well loved. I think there's a lot of appeal to that, so I think for some of them,
for sure.
For some of them, sure, it's probably just an easy paycheck and that's all. But I think, some of them I think do it because it's easier, but then also love it or love being a part of whatever the thing is. And I think sometimes it's probably like George Carlin probably had a grandkid who loved Thomas the Tank Engine, and was like, oh, and I'll make some money, but I also make something for my grandkid to love or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely see that. I do find it surprising when like those celebrities pop up in regular commercials.
Yeah.
Because I know like there's been some commercials floating around, and I'm like, that's Josh Brolin's voice. I'm like, okay, like he's not hurting for money, so what? They must have paid him a boatload to do that commercial, and it's these commercials aren't like he's not doing it for anyone, any kids. It's so it's like, okay, well, this is interesting. Yeah. They probably paid him a boatload of money.
Yeah, and he probably did about 12 minutes worth of work to do.
Yes,
to do it.
And you know what? I am not criticizing any of it.
Right.
More power to them. I find that
more
aspect
of a jealousy
like,
thing.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like I want to be able to do that.
Yeah. Right.
But it's just like that. I don't know if you've seen those interviews floating around of Jim Carrey right now because of Sonic the Hedgehog 3.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, I thought you weren't returning to this." And he's like, "Well, I bought a lot of things and I need more money." So whether that's true or not, it's the brilliant mind of Jim Carrey and hilarious.
Right.
But that's what it comes down to is that if I'm not degrading myself and it's a good paycheck, sign me up.
Yeah. What I think is interesting is I was just talking about this the other day with my wife, is how many actors that you now see in the on-camera commercials, and you're talking like Oscar winners and like Jamie Foxx doing these Bet MGM commercials or whatever they are. It's like I was commenting on how like in the 60s and 70s, if you were an actor, like a name actor, and you were in a commercial, it was basically like the death knell of your career. It was kind of like, oh, look who can't get work anymore. Now Orson Welles is doing commercials for wine, or so and so is doing commercials for TV dinner, and it was like because they're washed up, and now it's like literally the most prestigious actors, and they're like, Chris Pratt was in that commercial for Monopoly Go, and you're like,
yeah,
really? Mobile
so confused by that.
Chris Pratt? Like,
yeah, and it's interesting.
Sure, and it's just not. It's not the stigma it used to be. Now it's just like, oh yeah, we're doing commercials. Everyone's doing commercials now. We're having,
I remember
making some money. Okay, cool.
I remember the wave of like movie celebrities coming into TV shows. It was like 15 years ago or something like that. Yeah. There was like it started the uptick, and everybody was like, is this person like? All the magazines and websites were like, is this person washed up? And I forget who it was, but it was like, no, this is this is basically like a perfect avenue for everybody.
Yeah.
It gives you the opportunity to do something different. It's not a death sentence like it was, 20 years ago, where you were a movie actor and then you, like you just said, with Orson, you kind of step down and eventually you're doing, commercials in Japan or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But now
I think part of that is because of the quality of television has improved so much. When it was just like episode of the week type of thing, and you were just a guest star, it was kind of like, all right, well, yeah, it's not that prestigious. But now it's like people are going and, like doing like Glenn Close goes and does Damages for 8 episodes and wins an Emmy, and it's this really, like really well written and well crafted, and like it's like rivaling a movie in its quality. Then it's like, well, yeah, that's it's not a death sentence anymore, because now it's like some of the projects on TV are better than what you're getting in the movie theaters.
For sure. So, yeah.
Why not? It's a kind of sometimes a chance to reinvent yourself or do something you don't get the opportunity to do in movies. And
right. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, speaking of all that, right, with them doing small things, big things, right? So you got Sean Astin doing those little things,
right?
Josh Brolin is comic book god right now because of that.
Yeah.
What about, I'm gonna butcher this, but Ke Huy Quan?
Yeah,
like he went from like nobody, like he was doing stunts and like directing or choreography in the background for like 30 years, and all of a sudden he just pops back up on screen, wins an Oscar or whatever, and it's like the biggest freaking thing in cinema right now. It's like, holy shit, dude. Like and he, like, I've obviously never met him, but you see like the interviews and the way he seems like the nicest, most genuine guy around, and you couldn't be happier for anyone to have that like arc happen to but him. And
absolutely.
I
hope
basically
he was effectively, he retired from acting effectively, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
I'm not an expert on this, but I want to say it was the director of Everything Everywhere All at Once, like really wanted him to be in the movie. I assume because they're also a Goonies fan or an Indiana Jones fan, or probably both. Let's be honest, right?
Hell yeah.
And you know, convinced him to come out of acting, and then of course he wins the Oscar and is like, "Oh, I should do this again." And actually, I think his new movie looks fantastic. The one coming out,
it does. Yeah.
By the time this airs, it's come out, but the Valentine's Day, what's it called? Love Hurts or something like that. I forget what it's called.
Something along those lines. But yeah,
right. It's the action comedy. It looks really fun. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, where he like pretty much he's an everyday guy, but then all of a sudden he's all the kung fu stuff just starts like flowing through him or whatever. It looks really good.
He's like I think he's like a retired like bad guy, or like he used to be like this deadly assassin who then like gets out of the business and just becomes like this real estate agent. And then of course, you know, his past comes to find him and blah blah blah. But so that's where he's got all the skills from it. But it just looks like a fun ride, and it's good to see him doing stuff again like that. You know, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, and they look great. It's not throwaways. It's not it's not movie of the week. It's
right.
These are blockbuster movies. You know, Everything Everywhere All at Once like was huge.
Yeah, which is impressive that it was, you know, because it's not the most mainstream movie in the world. You know what I mean?
No, but it got mainstream pretty quick by word of mouth, which is awesome.
It is funny sometimes how audiences can like so many weird things come out and they just stay like these niche cult things, and then other times they come out like that one and they just get the right circumstances, you know, that lightning in a bottle, and suddenly it's like this huge grossing Oscar winning, you know, household name movie. It's just funny how it works out. But then there's a movie like say Donnie Darko, just off the top of my head, which I'm not saying is as good as that, or maybe it is, I don't know, but like, you know what I mean, that's like the cultiest of cult classics that like a very select group of people know about and like revere as this crazy twisty sci-fi film, but like, you know, your average Joe moviegoer has never seen it and half of them have never heard of it, and yet Everywhere All at Once, which is equally as strange, you know, I think, you know, again, just blows up. You know, it's funny how that it just, you never know what's gonna catch and what's not, you know.
It's insane.
Yeah, it really is.
It's true.
But
it is always interesting to see what hits and what doesn't, right?
Yep.
Like you brought up Donnie Darko, like that, the number of people who are kind of like, you're right, have no idea that movie exists. You know, there's any number of movies that you could throw in there. So I was pretty happy to see Everything Everywhere All at Once kind of just like skyrocket, and everybody got their dues. And the little I don't remember the name of the movie studio, but it's like a very new movie studio, and they were like,
A24.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they were like competing against themselves in like 6 categories that year.
That's not a bad problem to have.
Right.
No, it's not. So it was good to see that he kind of came out, because he was always one of those guys that was like, you know, you have all those quotes like between Indiana Jones and Goonies, and to this day, I still say booty trap, right? And, right?
Yep.
And
No Time for Love, Jones.
Right? Exactly. And to see him come in, he was always like one of those guys where it's like, what happened to him? And to see him come back, and then Harrison Ford was so excited for him. And
that was great.
That was fantastic.
That was really great to see. Yeah, I think not to get too off topic either, but I do like that, like Everything Ever All at Once being, you know, a big hit and getting the nominations. Because if you look at like this year's Oscars, the nominations that just came out, I think the box office total of all of your like Best Picture nominees is about $27. You know what I mean? It's like they picked all these prestige films that nobody has seen, like. You know, and so like it was nice when Everything Ever All at Once was in the race, because it was like, oh look, movie people have seen. You know, I'm not a big fan of the Oscars. I stopped caring about them a long time ago because I don't. Like them for the most part, but I was like looking at this year's list, and I was like, geez, it's like you guys are trying to hemorrhage viewers for your award show. You know,
that's
like,
actually
that the viewers are down every year for the Oscars. I'm like, maybe try nominating a movie that people have seen. Like I'm just
it's just a wild idea,
right?
I've been I watch most of the award shows every year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
To see how people interact, and like just to see, you know, I actually get some movie ideas to go watch a movie based off of the award shows, and like that movie never existed until just now. And that's actually been my biggest problem with like all of the award shows, and I've been thinking that for years. I'm like, you had a movie that grossed $1 billion and it's nominated for what? Sound editing?
Right. Yeah.
Like, sure.
Right.
Maybe it wasn't the best script written this year. The best script written this year probably never got made into a movie, to be fair. Right? So it's like, you're right. Like, every year I look at this, I'm like, I've looked up some of the movies, and I'm like, together, all, like, you're right, like $27. And before COVID, even then it was like, okay, each of those movies made like $100,000 in theaters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you take Wicked out, of course, Wicked skews it, but outside of Wicked, it's like no man's land. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, honestly, like I used to watch all the award shows. I really have stopped. My, you know, I think the Oscars, you know, like I always go like, you know, I threw the Oscars out the window when, you know, Annie Hall beat Star Wars for Best Picture. I mean, right there. But okay, whatever. It was the 70s. But, you know, the last, I don't know. I think this is going to be very specific, but it is the when I really gave up on the Oscars was when Tron Legacy came out and didn't even get a nomination for Best Visual Effects, like much less win, but not even a nomination. I'm like,
that was a good movie.
It's a good movie, but and I'm a huge Tron fan. I'm a huge Tron fan. But like, it is visually a stunning, mind-blowing movie to look at. Whether you like the movie or don't like the movie, you cannot deny that movie it just looks unlike anything else on the screen. And they didn't get a nomination. And I know that's just one category. I get that, and I know I overreact to things.
No, it's not.
They were losing me a little bit, and that's when I was like, what are we even doing here? You know, you may as well just pronounce the L in salmon because nothing matters anymore. You can't even get a nomination for Tron Legacy. Like, and that's when I really just sort of was like, I'm out. I'm done with the Oscars now. Like, that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. And every year now I look at like I love Conclave. It was great. Really good movie. I'm glad I got nominated, but like some of the other movies, like I'm like, I had to like be like, have I even heard of this movie? Like, and I'm not saying you shouldn't reward good movies, but also like, come on, like there wasn't anything good people have seen. Besides, I don't know. But then the Goonies didn't get nominated for any Oscars either. So
which is my
what didn't get nominated?
Goonies.
It probably got some like sound editing or some nonsense like that too.
Or or maybe some visual effect thing,
right?
Because
but it's not the kind of movie that, you know. I mean, that's the Academy rewarded movies like the Goonies, and what they need is to have a category for movies like that, right? They need like a genre category, right? Because like horror never gets recognized aside from like The Exorcist back in the 73. You know, like give us a genre category, so movies like the Goonies and you know you know the horror stuff, the science fiction stuff has a chance. You know, the superhero stuff, right? You know,
like
when Black Panther got nominated, which was awesome, but you know it wasn't going to win. Like no one thought that was going to win for Best Picture. We all knew that, even though it was a great movie and it was like,
for sure.
It was a like Oscar level great movie even, and it still didn't have a chance, you know? So
no, like
bureaucracy.
Right.
Superhero movie, like I'm actively like in nothing against her at all in any way, shape, or form. I'm still shocked Angela Bassett actually pulled out the award. I was like, holy crap, they gave an award to somebody in a superhero movie.
Yeah.
I thought you guys basically just thought these were all trash.
Right.
You know, and it like you don't even acknowledge the fact that because those movies exist, it's drawing people into the theater. It's getting you your money.
Right.
So that you can spend $100,000 on your pet project and have it win all the awards.
Exactly.
But they couldn't exist without the $1 billion Fast and Furious movie you made.
Right. I love Fast and Furious movies, but
dude, they're so good.
I love them.
So good.
I'm a fan.
Like, come on. Nobody knew in 2000 that movie was going to have like 15 sequels, a spin-off.
Yeah, there's so much fun.
And be like one of the biggest hits in the world.
Yeah, I feel like there's two kinds of people in the world: those who love Fast and Furious movies and those who don't. And I always feel like those who don't are just not in on the joke. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that even like the joke of Fast and Furious, like they shouldn't. like they're movies to make fun of, but it is sort of like you cannot take them too seriously either. Like people are like, oh, they're so cheesy with the family stuff and all that. I'm like, yes, but that's like we love the family stuff because
right?
it's endearing. Here's the thing. I'll give you my controversial opinion. You want to hear my controversial opinion?
Let's hear it.
Of course.
I guess it was last summer. There was 2 movies that came out that really focused on a family. One understands families and did it really well, and one does not understand families and did it really poorly. And those 2 movies were Fast and the Furious 10 and Guardians of the Galaxy 3. One of those movies understands family, and it ain't the one with the talking raccoon in it, okay?
You know what the biggest tragedy about the Fast franchise is? That Fast and Furious 10 wasn't called Fast 10 Your Seatbelts.
I know.
What the hell? What the hell? Where was their marketing team on that one?
Yeah, seriously. That's a missed opportunity right there.
Well, I mean, they were too busy trying to figure out how to make it, like, take another word out to make another Fast and Furious.
My biggest complaint about those movies is the naming convention. Like, I'm always like, which was it? Oh, 7. Was that a Furious? Was that a Fast? Was that which?
Yeah.
Like,
well, the worst is it was The Fast and the Furious,
right.
2 Fast, 2 Furious, Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, then Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
That was the joke I just made.
Right.
Yeah. I know. I'm stacking the chronological order here.
Yeah.
By release, not by like movie chronological, because Fast and Furious 3 is the first or second one. I don't know.
Yeah. Tokyo Drift, I guess technically, I believe, if I remember correctly, is kind of like set as a prequel. It's not a prequel per se, but it takes place before first Fast and Furious, I think, is how it works. Been
Something
a while.
like that.
I watch them all again every year or 2 anyway, but anyway.
You have a fast marathon?
I do, actually. Usually when a new one comes out, I go through a marathon through all of them.
Oh, jeez. I'll always watch the newest one, but I don't, because my thing is I got into that because I like the cars. And it's definitely like here's the cars. No, we're gonna take the story this way.
Yeah.
But supposedly Vin Diesel wants to bring it back to the cars.
Right. There's really 2 halves of the Fast and Furious saga, right? There's the racing half, and then there's the spies saving the world half, right?
Yeah.
The first 4 movies are the racing half, and then starting with 5, it transforms into like James Bond with, racing. Right?
Yeah.
It's save the world stuff, right? And so what I love is I love both halves. I love the racing half, and I love the save the world half.
Yeah.
But it's I love them. So
I like how there's literally no rules. Like, someone's dead. Just kidding. Anyone can come back. Anyone.
Yeah, you cheer every time. You're like,
I'm waiting for Jesse to come back in number 11.
Yeah.
In his Jetta, just pulling up with Frankie Muniz in the passenger seat.
It wouldn't surprise me.
I follow Chad Lindbergh, and I've met him. He's a fantastic dude.
Right.
And I follow him, and every once in a while, he's like, new movie coming out. My schedule's open. I think I could fit you guys in. And I'm like, I would love to see him back. He was one of my favorite characters in the first movie.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Imagine if they pull a Ghostbusters Afterlife where like someone's driving and all of a sudden like ghost hands just come on the wheel. And it's fucking Jesse.
I would say that I don't think they would do that. Except once they went to space, I feel like all bets are off. And that's the one thing that kills me is every time I bring up Fast and Furious, like in my classes or something, somebody always has to bring up, well, the time they went to space. I'm like, yes, okay, fine. Not the high water mark for Studios, okay? I get it.
Listen, when Ian Ziering rode in a shark from space down in a Sharknado movie, even I was like, I'm out.
Right.
I can't.
So that wasn't their best moment, but
I can't do a shark. Like,
what's funny is in high school I needed to take a mass media class because I needed an extra like half credit in English or whatever. Yeah. Literally that whole class, all we did was watch the original Fast and Furious movie like on repeat, and we'd have quizzes on it. Like that's all we did. Like the quiz would be like, "Who says I live my life a quarter mile at a time?" Like that's how stupid the quizzes were.
See, now if that was me, I would have just written family as the answer for every question. And if the teacher didn't give me 100 on it, I'd be like, no, you fail this class. Because that is clearly the right answer to every question.
Right.
All true fans know it.
It's true. I walked in. I was hanging out at the mall, and I walked into Drive-In Style, which is a store that doesn't exist anymore because Fast and Furious moved away from cars. But they were playing the movie on like their TV screen in there, and I was like, "Oh, I'm pretty sure this is in theaters still." And I was like, "You guys just don't care."
Right.
They're pirating stuff just like in the movie. They were stealing it.
Right. They're living the ethos.
Right.
What you didn't know is they stole a bunch of VCRs, and that's what they're playing the movie on. Stolen VCRs in the stockroom.
Yeah, when you watch the first one now, and you see what they're stealing. You're like, that whole truckload is worth about $16 now. It's all outdated, obsolete equipment.
It's pretty bad. Yeah.
Although that said, big physical media fan still.
So Nick.
But yeah,
you and Nick are gonna be best friends now.
You're not. Are you on the outside of us then, Mike? Are you not a big physical media fan? I take it.
I mean, I enjoy, the art behind it, but for me, like, I don't have space, and digital is just more convenient, even though I know it's fleeting.
Yeah,
and it could be taken away. But I also don't pay $20 for a digital movie. I wait till they're $5.
Sure, I mean that's fair.
I do that, so
yeah, that's a smart way of doing it. I mean, I do also have the digital library, but I'm a big fan of physical media, and I think it's a great preservation thing, but I think it's also caters to the film nerds. I watched the other day. I eventually will get back to Goonies, I promise, but I watched Carlito's Way, one of my favorite movies.
Okay,
and it's the Arrow Video does these special editions that are really top. Like Arrow Video is kind of like the Criterion Collection, but for people who like movies, or like movies people like, as opposed to just art house films.
The movies that people have heard of.
Right.
It's really it. Yeah.
And I love Criterion. They do great work. I'm joking. They do just cater to. I'm a little more mainstream than they tend to be, but Arrow does a lot of cult videos and also more popular types of movies. And they did a Carlito's Way, and it comes in like a box set and everything. And like I watched the movie, and then I just devoured the extra features. You know what I mean? There was like this great interview with like Brian De Palma, and there was this like movie critic like deconstructing the whole storyline, and there was a good hour plus of just like making of stuff, and I just wanted to live in that world longer than the 2 hours of the movie. And that's the kind of stuff that you don't. Yeah, sure, you can find some of it on YouTube, but not all of it. And I love that stuff, and I love the packaging. And they like the Arrow, the ones that come with these nice like 80-page booklets with like essays and interviews and stuff. And I just
nice.
love the whole thing. And they have like lobby cards and posters, and not every release that comes out is like that, but. And that's really what I'm trying to focus on more now with my movies. Is like I'm the same. I have boxes and boxes of DVDs and Blu-rays and 4Ks that are just like your special regular editions, and it's kind of like. All right, I've got it in my digital library, whatever. But when they do the good special editions, like I love that stuff.
It's true. That's my wheelhouse. I'm glad you brought up Arrow. They make fantastic ones.
Yeah.
I recently picked it was like 2 years ago now. Shit. I picked up Mallrats because it's one of my favorite films on there, and I saw that they had the collector's edition, and it came with like It came with a reversible poster of the blueprints.
Yep.
And 2 years ago. Exactly. So 2 years ago at a local convention, Shannon Doherty was there, so I had her sign it, and before she passed, unfortunately.
That's awesome.
So, but the
Arrow. My Mallrats claim to fame, which is not really a very big one, but I feel like I have a little bit of movie geek pride about it. I saw Mallrats on opening night in theaters. Ooh. And I think maybe about 12 people in this country can probably say that. There
11 were in the movie.
Yeah, right.
What's that?
I said 11 were in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. But as a from somebody who found Clerks on video like everybody else did, Mallrats came out, which it bombed famously. I was there opening night in a theater pretty much by myself. I think my girlfriend at the time, but I'm always proud of the fact that I saw that one in theaters opening night before Kevin Smith really kind of became the household name he is now.
That's such a good movie. Oh my god.
I love it.
I used to quote it all the time, my friends. Like,
oh sure,
I wasn't introduced until high school, like after it had already come out. All three of the the first three movies had come out
opening night, and I was looking around the theater and I went, well, this movie isn't going to do very well, but I loved it anyway, obviously. So
I found Clerks on VHS, watched that the first time, and then you kind of go down the Jay and Silent Bob universe, the Viewisk universe, and follow them, and that's how I got into Mallrats, and I was like, this movie's fucking fantastic.
Yeah, it really is. It's great.
It made me fall in love with Jason Lee. That was his first movie too that he did.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Douchebag retires from professional skateboarding at 22, 23.
Yep.
He becomes an actor, a good actor that's successful.
Yeah.
And then retires, and now he's selling photography equipment.
Camera equipment.
Really?
Yeah. He's a massive photographer now.
Yeah.
Weird. That's a weird career trajectory. I go figure.
But he did it. So
yeah, good for him. He's
mad respect to him. Yeah.
Yeah. Holy cow.
But oh man, Brody was my favorite character. By far. Yeah. He was so good. Like, I love that. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned for Sega.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's a good one. Oh man. Cool. What else? Goonies. We should talk about Goonies.
Goonies, yeah.
I mean, like we should.
Yeah, we could. So my favorite part of the Goonies, or one of my favorite parts, is I love when is it Chunk that knocks over the statue of Mikey's house?
Yes.
And
yes.
I think and the junk falls off, and they no, it's my mom's favorite part. And they glue it on, and it's upside down. So good.
That is classic.
Just the small stuff in there. Nick actually brought it up on a previous episode that it went over my head. The fact that there's two versions of that movie, one with an octopus and one without. That's crazy that they would like.
It's funny because I was going to bring that up. I was in my head for the last 5 minutes. I was like, we should talk about the octopus, but I didn't want to just jump in and be like, what do you think of the octopus scene?
I did it for you. Don't worry.
Funny because I was just on Facebook maybe 3-4 days ago in one of the groups that I'm in, on some movie group or something, and people were like, did you see the Goonies in the theater? And if you did you see it with or without the octopus? And I was like, I don't think anybody saw it in the theater with the octopus. And that was kind of the consensus, I think, of those smart people, at least those that, on video, and things like that, or the TV, the broadcast version, it had the octopus, but the theatrical version did not have the octopus. And, but Mandela effect is a real thing, and people are convinced, of course, that there was an octopus.
There is.
There is, but not in you can see it in the theater. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. It definitely was not in the theater version. It was I think the first time it, as movies on TV do, which I've always appreciated how they sometimes show different versions.
Yeah.
It was the first time I saw a weird extended cut of the Harry Potter movies. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Of course, some of it is just the deleted scenes from the extras that you were talking about that I'd watched 50 times, but it was still weird to see them spliced in. Anyway, so the first time I saw the octopus version was this very pirated copy from Japan that my buddy, or China or whatever, my buddy had in his collection of Goonies, and I was like, the deuce? There's an octopus in here?
Yeah.
And I was pretty excited, but since then it's basically been in every version I've watched, some coincidentally, but it was the first time I caught it, and I was just thrown off very drastically.
Well, it brought context to at the end of the movie when Data's like, we fought an octopus.
Right.
They're probably he probably improvised that line and shit. Okay, let's film a scene with an octopus and put it in for the home release.
I always thought that, that was just a funny, I thought it always played well, they were just kids being excited and they were kind of making stuff up. So
yeah, it worked. Yeah.
What was interesting for me with the octopus was, so I was have always been an avid magazine reader, and so back in the day, they do these, I guess now, but they cost $20. Back in the day, for $4 you would get the official souvenir magazine of a movie, right? And I had the Goonies magazine, and it had the Drew Struzan cover art where they're all hanging from like the stalactite, right? It's the whole group of them hanging, right?
Yeah.
And it was, here's the story of the movie and all of that stuff. And I want to say I might have even had it before I saw the movie, because I think I recall like there was a picture in that magazine of the octopus. And I think I recall when I went to see the movie, waiting for that, because I was always obsessed with stuff like that as a kid.
That's cool.
Leagues of the Sea was one of like the first movies I saw, so I always had a thing for like sea creatures, octopuses, that type of thing. So I'm waiting for it, and then there was no octopus. And I go home, I look at the magazine, like there's clearly an octopus in the picture, like you can see it, and the caption is like they fight an octopus, and I'm like, what's happening here? And as a kid, you don't understand about things like deleted scenes and stuff like that. I mean, so for a long time, I think I was very confused about like why there wasn't an octopus, but that was sort of a lesson, like, oh, I guess they sometimes put things in movies that don't actually end up in the movies, like, look at me, I look at editing, but it's definitely in there. Like, I don't have that magazine anymore, at least if I do, I don't know where it is, but it does exist, and there's a photo of that octopus in there. So that was always interesting that it made it in, like, obviously it got cut late in the process because the magazine that came out 4 weeks before the movie hit the screens, it's still in there, so I thought that was interesting. Another interesting thing, if I may, go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Is like, so the art I'm talking about, right? Where it's all the 7 of the kids hanging, right? Did you know in the newspaper ads that they had, there was different versions of that where it was different kids at the top going down to the bottom? It wasn't just one picture. Did you guys know that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I knew there's different variations to like how they were hanging. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I never knew that they switched the order up. I think it was like Mikey at the top and Josh Brolin at the bottom, whatever the main one they used on the posters was, and I just assumed that was the only
Brolin on top.
And I just learned a few, I don't know, maybe probably like last year sometime, that there was different versions with different kids at the top, depending on what markets they were in and stuff like that, and they rotated. I was like, I had no idea. So, all right, well, you're on up on that.
I've seen them. I didn't know the purpose or how they were released or divvied up, but yeah, I've seen different ones and stuff. But the iconic one is obviously Bran at the top.
That's it, Bran at the top, right? Yeah, that's the one that I knew, and I just never realized there was
with his red headband looking all
cool. Yeah, right. Yeah.
His muscle shirt.
Made real movie posters with actual artwork, not just teal and orange.
Or AI, as we're seeing nowadays.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the worst thing. That's the biggest thing that I'm sick of, is all these like Facebook channels and stuff posting movie posters like, oh, coming out in 2026, and it's like, okay, why does that person have 8 fingers on their left hand? And it's a romantic comedy, like, it's like,
I don't understand the point of some of these, right? Like I saw a poster or an ad the other day and it was in an ad. It was in a Facebook group. Somebody posted it, but it was like this official kind of press, like very officially written, like, X-Files season 12 coming February 4th and 5th. I'm like, that's like in 2 weeks. I've heard nothing about this, but I'm looking at Mulder and Scully and they look older, but I'm like, but it clearly looks like she's like a little bit older and a little bit heavier, but I'm like, but that's not what she looks like now. I've seen her recently. Like, why does she look a little bit haggard here? Like, I know she's getting older, whatever, but I'm looking at it, I'm like, something feels off. And I I go in the comments and everything, and I check it out. I'm like, oh, it's fake, which I had suspected. But I'm like, somebody took the time to create this ad and then write up the copy for it that says it's coming soon. And that's it. There's no like, no punchline, no joke. I'm like, what are you getting out of that? Like, what's the excitement or the enjoyment of like
clicks and likes and
Yes, I mean, I'm sure. I know it's all about like that kind of thing, but I just don't get it. I keep seeing stuff like that all the time now for just like, seasons of shows that aren't happening and, it's fake stuff. And you're just like, what? Like, it's one thing to do it as like a parody, but like to do it as like, haha.
Yeah. But the worst thing that gets me is like, again, you'll see them and it's like, all right, well, they have 2 left feet,
right?
Or 6 fingers on one hand, or like any text in there is all smeared. Like you can't actually read the letters, and all the comments like, oh my God, I'm so excited for this. I didn't know this was coming out. And it's like,
right.
You guys, like, be smarter than
it literally looks bad.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even get to finger counting, and I've already discredited it.
Right.
I'm like, no.
Yeah.
And I saw that same X-Files one, and I was like,
right.
No.
You said something was off by looking at it, but just for a second, you're like, wait, really? You know,
that's what I did. I was like, no, I would have heard about
Sliver of hope.
Right.
Like I would have heard about this because that's like the biggest tell in most of them is you're like that. Like I think I forgot what it was, but it was like something ridiculous, and it was coming out like the ad was in November, and it was like coming November, and I was like,
Right.
"You mean to tell me this movie I've never heard
Yeah.
of, that the sequel to a blockbuster movie
Right.
is coming out this month, and
Right.
nobody's heard of it?"
First I've heard of it. Yeah, ET2 is coming out tomorrow,
So-
and this is the first I'm hearing about it. Okay.
I saw one for Spider-Man, and it was like the Amazing Spider-Man 3 or whatever.
Yeah,
And it's and Spider-Man sitting like there. He has 3 arms. Like we're not going down that arc in the movies. I know we're not. It's a thing, and it should be more arms than that. But he had 3 arms, and the top of the where they put like the actor names and stuff.
Yeah.
It was like Andrew Garfield, Adam Garfield, Garfield Andrew, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe we're finally getting this movie." And I'm like, "Oh my god,
yeah,
we're doomed. We're doomed. Humanity's doomed."
Garfield in their name, there's Garfield the cat,
Oh man, that'd be amazing.
Worst nemesis ever.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Have you now? So actually, we were talking about. I was telling my wife I was coming on the show the other day, yesterday, and she was like, "Did I hear something about them doing a new Goonies?" And I was like, I heard something, but I don't know what. I remember I read a little while ago that they were talking about maybe doing like a legacy sequel with all the characters as adults, right? So I went and I looked it up, and what I came across is that I want to say it's Disney Plus picked it up. They're doing a show. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, about these 2 kids who were trying to create a shot-for-shot remake of the Goonies, and they are making it into a series. Have you heard about this at all?
No, but that sounds pretty cool.
It is. It's interesting. So I'm gonna look it up. I'll tell you while I'm at it. Well, let me tell you about something that I love that I don't think anybody knows about. That ties into this. Okay. Have you guys heard of or seen, and you may have, I don't know, but a lot of people haven't, the movie called Raiders, the greatest fan film ever made?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
Okay. I cannot possibly recommend highly enough that you watch this movie. It is called Raiders, ! The greatest fan film or greatest fan movie ever made. Cannot recommend it highly enough. It is about this group of kids who back in like 1982, after Raiders came out, before it was on video or anything like that, decided to create the film over again, shot for shot, like a bunch of the neighborhood kids. And what they pull off as a bunch of neighborhood kids with a VHS camera and no money is pretty amazing. And then what happens is there's one shot they didn't get. It's the big Nazi wing blowing up. So they go back to recreate it. And so this film chronicles both the creation of the movie as kids and them as adults trying to finally finish the film with this one shot.
That's pretty cool.
It is absolutely one of the best films I've ever seen. I love it. If you're an Indiana Jones fan, it will blow you away. If you're not an Indiana Jones fan, it will blow you away. So the reason I say that is because this sounds to me very similar to that. So if it has that kind of energy, I'm all here for it. So it says here on Collider, the Goonies reenactment series, Our Time, being developed for Disney Plus. I'm going to quickly read this. Nearly 2 years ago, Collider ran a story on a drama series that focused on 3 students, their substitute teacher, and their quest to create a shot-for-shot remake of the Richard Donner cult classic, The Goonies. It was in development at Fox, but they turned it down. And now Disney Plus has scooped up production and is redeveloping a series for streaming on the platform, according to a Variety report, now under the title of Our Time. So, could be interesting.
Best title they could have picked, too.
Right. This is Our Time. So I like that idea because I don't need a Goonies sequel. Like, as fun as it would be to see them all together again, it probably wouldn't be great.
What are they going to do? You know what I mean? Like,
I think what I had read was their kids maybe get involved in something. I'm like, okay, sure. But it's just never going to capture that magic again. You know what I mean? But this idea I like because, again, it feels a little like a ripoff of Raiders, but whatever. We'll let go of that. That movie is so amazing that if they can do this as a series about a movie like Goonies, I think it could be a lot of fun. So let's hope it gets picked up. It'd be kind of fun to have something Goonies this new without something that's going to like not ruin it, because I don't believe you can ruin good old movies with bad new movies. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But just sort of tarnish the legacy, if you will. I also say
It's
that
true.
you can't ruin good old movies with new bad movies. Even though literally today, I told my daughter there's only 3 Indiana Jones movies. That's all they ever made. So, and she knows. I mean, she was like, I saw the last one. It was terrible. I'm like, you don't like Last Crusade? She's like, no, the last one. I'm like, that is the last one, but I get what you mean. Okay. But I think that'd be cool. Like, if they do that for Goonies, I will absolutely watch it. Obviously.
Yeah. No, that sounds interesting. I would definitely be into that. I'm trying to think of. You got my mind like reeling a little bit now. Like if there were to ever do a sequel, which is a horrible idea, no matter what they come up with.
Right.
I'm trying like. I don't think About Their Kids would be the right move.
Sure.
I think it would have
making that up completely. By the way, I feel like I read it somewhere, but I might be making.
Yeah, no. I'm just. This is spitballing, right? I'm not.
So much.
There's no facts behind what I'm saying.
Right.
Goonies sequels theories out there.
Well, the actual sequel is a video game. We all know that, but because that is Goonies too. It'd have to be about them and like something like recreating that adventure somehow, but I don't even know how you could do it organically. That's the problem,
So here's what I would say. Now, keep in mind, okay, so my movie podcast is called After the Ending, and what we do is we take movies that have no sequels, me and my co-host, and we create our own sequel story.
Oh, all right, shit.
So if I were doing it, right, if I was going to do a Goonies sequel, what I would do is have something where, they get together and their kids kind of sneak off on like an adventure of some sort, but they get in trouble and then the parents have to rescue them. So the kids can be off screen for most of it. We just see them a little bit, like with whatever trouble they get in, they get lost in looking for treasure and they get kidnapped by pirates or whatever. But then we focus on the Goonies characters as adults trying to go rescue them so that they still are the ones going on the adventure. You know what I'm saying? That's how I would frame it. I'm not saying they should do that or I think it's a good idea. I'm saying that's how I would frame it so that you're not just having the parents pop in as cameos and then the kids.
Yeah, no, it'd have to be the parents for sure.
Right. So that's how I would like work that.
Or
I guess
the Fratellis break out of jail.
Yeah, right.
And then they get their revenge or kidnap the kid. Yeah.
There we go. There you go. That's how I would do that. And then the parents have to go. And then on the way to getting the kids, they somehow stumble into some kind of, adventure-y thing. Can't just be them running through like, Detroit, like some urban city trying to rescue them. That would be horrible. But like, they get some kind of thing where they get, they find a secret, whatever,
Yeah.
A secret map.
All right. So we got to quickly write this script and then copyright it. Yeah. That way no one can make this happen because again, we don't want a sequel. Right. This is just,
but if they're going to make
in our nightmares and there's a sequel, this is how it would go.
Right. I will just quickly share a quick story that is only remotely related to what we're talking about. But, I think I have a soft spot in my heart for some of these things where they're trying to remake stuff because I was one of those kids with the video camera. And our big magnum opus was doing our own sequel to The Terminator. Where we, created this whole, like film, which is probably about 3 minutes of footage all told at the end. But our big special effect that we did. Now I grew up in Florida, okay, in Orlando, and we were filming this when it was cold out, and I used because now I live in upstate New York, and it was negative 19 degrees yesterday where I live.
Yeah,
more before the sun came up, but so it was coldish out. So our big special effect was we wanted to do the Terminator doing time travel. So my friend, got down to just like he had like the black like boxer briefs, but they were the super tight like Under Armour type, so he was kind of naked, sort of like in the shadows. And what he did was he went and he sat in the hot tub for like 5 minutes. Okay. So then we got the shot ready and we shot, like the ground and with nothing there. And then we cut and then we shot again and we had him appear there and he's all crouched over, but he was steaming because he had been sitting in the hot tub and it was cold out. And so then it was like the quick cut of him appearing in like the time bubble, but he was steaming. And that was our big special effect. And we were very proud of that. We got it to be like, bam, he's not there, and then he's there, and he's got the steam like in Terminator when it's all hot from the bubble. And we were like, I was probably about 16 at the time, and we were like, we are badasses.
Hell yeah.
So we did that special.
Have you watched the show called Goldbergs?
What's the right, exactly. We did the special effect twice. My other friend had to do it also because one was the Terminator and one was Kyle Reese. So obviously they both had to come back. We were like, well, we're not wasting that special effect idea. It worked once. We're doing it twice. So
you bring that up. I recently watched the Terminator movies again because it's been for.
To say, though.
What's that?
I said, be careful what you're about to say about the Terminator movies to me. I'm kidding.
The first two. I love the first two.
Yeah. That's cool. All right, go ahead.
It was hard for me to get into the third one, but in my mind, I'm like, in the future, they don't know that the T-800 failed because the future's simultaneously going on with the past.
Right.
So then why are they like, hey, let's send a T-1000 10 years later? Like, why didn't they just send, like, if they're advancing technology in the future, like, all right, we got the T-800s, now we got the T-8000s, let's send a T-1000 back to, whatever timeline. So it didn't make sense to me. I'm like, what the hell? That doesn't make sense.
It's always been one of the flaws with there being a sequel to that, right? Is that, like, they say they sent them back just in case, but it is also like, well, why don't you send back like 20 of them, or what?
Yeah.
I mean, they do their best to explain it, I think. And then you get to the more movies you get to, of course, the more Terminators they're sending back. And you're like, you guys are bad at this. Like, this shouldn't be that hard. But time travel movies in general, though, you can pick apart almost any of them if you try hard enough, I feel.
Or what if the future, they don't invent time travel and then they can't send a horny Reese back in time to create John Connor,
right?
And then the machines just win.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's the paradoxes are definitely strong in the Terminator movies, but it does not change how much.
In my adulthood, in my rewatch, that was my outcome. Is I'm like, this doesn't make sense, but I'm like, but damn, these are still good movies.
Yeah,
as in they hold up.
Halloween tie-in comparison.
Yeah.
Okay, so I told you guys I was going to random places. Right?
We're fine.
I'm a huge fan of the Halloween franchise. My favorite horror movie franchise. Halloween, Halloween 2, and Halloween H2O is a perfect trilogy, right?
Yeah.
I like a lot of the other movies, but you can live without three separate, doesn't matter. But 4, 5, and 6, they get progressively worse. But 1, 2, and H2O, perfect trilogy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Terminator, again, I like all of them, even the bad ones. I like them all. Like 3 is the worst, but I like Dark Fate. I even like Genesis I like Salvation, and I like Genesis. Genesis has some problems, obviously, with John Connor, whatever. But Dark Fate, I think, is outstanding. I don't think that movie gets near the credit it deserves for being an amazing film. And I think Terminator 2 and Terminator Dark Fate also make a perfect trilogy. So I think of Halloween now, and I think of Terminator as very linked in my brain because I'm weird, in that they both have this sort of weird winding path of multiple sequels, but the first one, the second one, and then a much later sequel, both franchises form perfect movie trilogies, even if that's not how they were intended or how they were created.
Okay, so I should jump off and do Dark Fate.
Have you not seen Dark Fate?
No.
It's amazing.
Okay.
It feels like James Cameron made it. He did not. He produced it, but it is the guy. I want to say it's the guy who directed Deadpool who directed it. Or one of the Deadpool people did it. I think it really, really, really feels like James Cameron directed it, as close as you're going to get anyway. The story's a little bit, they're treading on some familiar ground because, of course, there's only so much you can do, right? But the way they tie everything back together and the way they bring people back is done very, very well, in my opinion. And I think that the writing is really good to sort of tie it back to 1 and 2. So, yes, in my opinion, definitely watch Dark Fate. I think it's really, really good.
Okay. All right. So I will watch that because, again, I rewatched the first 2 and then I started the third one. I got like 20 minutes in. Right. I was having trouble getting into it.
Yeah.
But,
it's the toughest one.
I'm okay with the tie back stuff like that, and because just to give you context, I loved Alien Romulus, so
I like Alien Romulus. So okay. So here's the thing: I've recently reevaluated my favorite movies list.
Okay,
and I have come to the conclusion. I know it's really hard, especially for someone like us. I have come to the conclusion that my favorite movie of all time is Aliens.
It's so good.
James Cameron's Aliens is I just think I was looking at like movies that I love and how many times I've watched them and how I feel about them and how much I think about them and how much merchandise I own of them, everything. And Aliens is, to me, I watched it again last year when the 4K came out, and I've seen it 100 times, and I was blown away by what a perfect movie it is. Right.
Interesting.
So I have a deep abiding love for the Aliens universe, even though they have way more bad movies than most of the other franchises do. That said, I liked Alien Romulus a lot.
Yeah.
Until the last 20 minutes. And I don't want to give too many spoilers. People haven't seen it, but
it's been long enough.
It felt just like we had done that before.
Oh
But specifically with the end of Alien Resurrection, it felt so similar to that for me that it was just, and it's like, you give me an alien movie, which is what I wanted. We get away from all this Prometheus nonsense and all this like pseudopods and all that crap and the origins that nobody cares about, and you give me a really good tense alien movie with face huggers and aliens and everything, and then at the end you give me a villain who's not an alien entirely. You know what I mean? Like it just so like really liked it. I liked it a lot. And I want to watch it a second time so I can kind of reevaluate a little bit because my expectations are different now. I just wish they were root with the climax of the film. That's my big complaint with it.
Yeah, I got that.
That said, it's the best one since probably Aliens.
So I've kind of going down the Terminator path. I've never seen Alien 3 or Resurrection.
Okay, interesting.
So I saw Aliens. I've seen Prometheus. I saw Covenant. And I saw Romulus.
Okay, well,
so Romulus had a lot of new stuff for me.
Right? Yeah, it probably wouldn't bother you as much then.
No, it didn't. I really enjoyed it.
I wish I had seen it before I saw those other ones. Well, now when you watch Alien Resurrection, you might find that one disappointing then because the ending, the ending was always the weakest part.
I'm probably not going to watch it.
No, all right. I just rewatched all 4 of the original Aliens films not that long ago.
Yeah.
Actually, because after I watched Aliens on 4K, I was like, well, I got to watch all the rest of them now. So I went through and did Alien 3, Alien Resurrection. I did the 2 Aliens vs. Predator movies, and then I did Prometheus and Covenant again. So again, slightly obsessed. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean that was me. September, August is when I did it. Because I'm in a lull. There's no good movies coming out that are exciting me, so I've been revisiting the classics, the stuff that's like has that the nostalgia bug and that place in my heart where it's like, okay, well, all right, let's watch Rambo, and let's watch all those other 80s and 90s action movies and stuff. So this is recent for me.
Oh, that's fair. I mean, to be fair, I did just write a book about 80s cult classic movies, and part of the reason for it is exactly that, because I wanted to kind of revisit those movies that I love, but I wanted to focus on the ones that maybe people hadn't seen as much so that I could, because some of them are some of my favorites for one, and then also because it's like, what am I going to write about Terminator that hasn't been said already? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Aliens, it's not like, what am I going to say about Aliens that hasn't been said? There's hours and hours of documentaries and stuff. I have nothing to add to that. But Monster Squad, I can tell you about Monster Squad. You know what I mean? Like, not a lot of books on Monster Squad out there. Not a ton of books, things like that. So I that's why I wrote a book about that, because the same thing. Like, I'm just, I'm revisiting these movies that I love, awesome. And it's, I never get tired of watching them. So, I want to, spread the gospel a little bit.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and that's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
focus on the obscure. That's just as good, if not better.
Right, exactly. And that's kind of the hope, is that some people will read it and have seen every single movie in it, and some people will read it and seen half the movies in it, and then go, oh, if I like all these, then maybe I should go rent, The Wraith, or whatever it is. So, but Goonies didn't make it in there either, actually.
Or Event Horizon.
What's that?
Or Event Horizon.
Well, that's not the 80s, but yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
I have a weird love-hate relationship with Event Horizon. I don't know. Are you a fan? Big fan?
Yeah.
It could have been better. They really don't touch too much on like his wife and the suicide and all that. Yeah. It's kind of just like little glimpses and like his descent into madness and stuff. Like, but it's enjoyable for what it is, like a space possession horror movie.
Yeah. I just have mixed feelings every time I watch that movie. And it's funny because I rewatch it every few years because it's like I watch it and then I kind of forget about what happens, and then I'm like, oh yeah, Event Horizon. Every time I watch it, I'm like, on the one hand, I'm like, it is really creepy. It's borderline scary. It looks great. You know what I mean? Like, um, and it's not like there's anything about it that I like actively hate or anything like that. You know what I mean? But then I also watch it and it sort of just is like, I don't know, like it kind of is unpleasant, and like sometimes like, and I just never come out of it going like, man, I love that. I find it intriguing and there's things about it that I like. And I want to like it more than I do, but I never finish it. And I'm like, oh man, that's one of my favorites. I love that movie. It's more like, oh yeah, that was really interesting. It's one of those films I think is really interesting more than I think it's great, but I don't think it's bad either. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
it just it treads that line.
Yeah, it does. I want to love it. I do. I just doesn't. My co-host on my podcast is a big fan of it, so we get in debates about it sometimes, But it's not like I don't want to badmouth it because I don't dislike it. It's just it gets to where I
did
want
an entire episode on it.
What's that?
We did an episode on it.
Right. So I'm sure that was an interesting conversation.
So somebody out there loves it.
Well, it definitely has its fans. It definitely has its fans for sure.
It definitely does. But the way you're talking about it is like, I've watched a lot of movies. The more I talk to people, sometimes even I'm like, maybe I haven't seen a lot of movies, but I've seen a lot more of the weird, like I've dealt like a good chunk of my life. It was basically like comedies or sci-fi was it.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. Is there anything else?
I mean, yes, there is now. And then I started delving into the horror side of things, and like it's just massively expanded from there. And I get into debates with people because I'm like, I can find something redeeming about most movies, right? Sure. Whether it doesn't have to be the most dramatic plot, right? Like, and I picked Transformers 4. Right, the one with Marky Mark in it.
You also picked the Michael Bay Ninja Turtle movies.
I did not.
Anyway, see, you've defended those plenty of times.
I have defended them, but I'm not defending them right now. What I am so I picked Michael Bay. I picked the 4th Transformers movie as a perfect example. People are like, "Oh, the movie sucked." No, what did you want? It was Marky Mark, in a movie about giant robots attacking giant robots. Right. I went to the movie expecting there to be lots of robot on robot fighting.
Right.
There's people in it, but they're just there as side characters. They always have been. They're there as like the humanity part that the Autobots have to fight to protect, and the Decepticons want to murder. Right.
Sure.
Listen, that movie gave us Optimus Prime as a Peterbilt, so it's arguably the best of the Bay movies before Bumblebee.
Right. It's not bad, though.
But it's not bad.
That's why it's good.
Right. He's a producer, so he kind of,
That's
anyway. But that's it. Is like people, everyone's like, "Oh, the movie sucked." Like when it was coming out, I was like, "What did?" And then you said, "I'm like, what did you expect? Did you expect an Oscar-worthy performance from literally anybody in that movie?"
Right.
Because if so, you went in with horrible expectations.
Yeah.
And that's on you.
Yeah.
If you went to a Transformers movie expecting anything Oscar worthy, like obviously based off of our conversation from Oscar worthy, you understand it. It's like Transformers is never getting nominated. Nobody in that movie is getting nominated for acting. Nobody, like, the best you're getting is like visual effects and sound editing out of those movies because they are done really well, right? Like plot aside, like they're done well. So I went into that movie expecting to see robots fighting robots, and you get that for a good solid hour and a half.
Right.
Like,
see, the problem is a lot of it is just mush. You can't tell what's going on. That's my only criticism. Like I've not really complained about any of those Transformer movies for like their plots. I think all of them do a great job of trying, right? Like, we stopped going to space because we found, Transformers on the moon, stuff like that. And the whole, like, we're going to tie it in with the dinosaurs, the Ice Age. Love that. I wish they would have had that roadmap planned out from the beginning, but not everybody can be in the MCU. I get that. But those fucking turtle movies are trash, dude. Like, I try because I'm like, I had a itch the other day because my daughter is 6. She's obsessed with Ninja Turtles, and I love Ninja Turtles. I was born in '84, so I'm like, all right, well, you know what? It's got Bebop and Rocksteady, so it can't be that bad. It's our first ever live action Bebop and Rocksteady, and I put it on, and I was just like, nope. Nope, and I turned it off. Like I couldn't. It was so bad.
Yeah, they're pretty rough. I'm not a fan. And the did you ever see the thing where somebody took the Bay turtles and just added noses to them? Not human noses, like the classic cartoon shaped noses.
Yeah, it completely changed them.
It makes them look 10 million times better. And it's like all you had to do was put noses. I mean, I'm saying that would have saved the movie, but it's like,
yeah, but those designs are horrible.
They just look so
those designs were horrible.
Yeah, they really are bad. That's unfortunate.
I mean, again, it's one of those things. So the reason I can defend it, and it's not because it's a fantastic script. It's not because the acting is phenomenal in it. You do get Michael Bay hiring Megan Fox after he kicked her off the third Transformers movie. Right. He's like never working with her again, but then he's like April O'Neil.
Right.
Anyway, they introduced an entire new group of people to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It doesn't have to be the best movie. It was to get them hooked, right? Like it has its purpose. Its purpose is to try and do something totally different. It didn't fully succeed. There are moments in both of the movies that are actually really fun, but I'm just glad they weren't aliens, which was one of the original plots for it. I'm glad that didn't happen. So, on the positive side, it wasn't that, right? But they have their purpose. Yeah, sure, I could defend them. I'm not saying they're fantastic or whatever, but it's one of those things where you have to go into some movies knowing that you have to set the bar low, right? You have to go into some movies with a bar set low. And if you are one of those people that goes in expecting every movie you watch to be pure, utter, fantastic cinema, you're gonna have your heart broken more often than not.
But good or bad, I usually find a redeeming quality in a movie, and it's very hard pressed on those.
Nick, I on the one hand I agree with you fully. On the other hand, I disagree with you fully. And here's why. Like I always say, if you go to a Fast and Furious movie and you've seen the trailer and you don't like the movie, you're kind of an idiot because like the trailer tells you exactly what you're going to get, right? So I totally get you on that. But I also remember you remember during COVID when they first, no one knew to do with movies for a couple months, right? And then HBO Max was like, we're going to drop a couple movies. When they put out Godzilla vs. Kong, they put out Mortal Kombat, the new Mortal Kombat movie. And that Mortal Kombat movie is dreadful. It is really, 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 really bad. And I made
but redeeming quality, it had good visuals.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'll give you that as a redeeming quality. But I remember I went on social media and I was complaining about how bad the movie was. That it was really awful. And the thing that bothered me was everybody's response was, well, what did you expect? An Oscar-winning film? No. But I expect coherent filmmaking. I expect the basic level of filmmaking to put some effort into making a movie that doesn't suck out loud. And I think that movie did. It's really awful. And I was like, when did the standard become it has to be award worthy? That's not what I'm saying. I just want the movie to be good. I don't even want it to be great necessarily, but just not be awful. And so on the one hand, I totally get what you're saying. You're right. On the other hand, it's but do we set the bar too low sometimes in general? Are we just letting people off the hook? It's oh, well, you made a crappy movie, but I expected it to be crappy, so it's okay. How about maybe you try and make it good, even if it is crappy?
Don't get me wrong. So finding the redeeming quality isn't, and being and knowing that the bar is set low going into a movie just helps a person have better expectations, right?
Sure. And I agree with
that.
Right.
It doesn't make the movie. It doesn't make it okay in some cases for the movie to exist, really, right? Like there are certain movies that I'm not going to even try to pick out of my brain right now because it's not fair. It's not fair right now for me to even try to pull that out. I've seen movies and I'm just like, there's literally no redeeming qualities about it. Like, sure, I don't understand it, right? Like, I don't understand why this movie was ever made. And I just figured it out. It's the one movie I have never finished in my life. It's called Vampires.
Okay.
It VAMPIYAZ, right?
Okay. All right.
Okay. It's a real movie I got from Blockbuster DVD rental by mail when they were trying to compete with Netflix.
Yeah.
It was like send you one in the mail and then go to the store and pick up a new one. Anyway, so I found it because I was like looking for vampire movies and I was like, what ridiculous vampire movies can I throw in my queue, right? Mm-hmm. And it popped up and I was like, yes, this has to be something I watch.
Right.
And I've tried a few times to watch it and I've never been able to make it through because it came out in the early 2000s, late 2000s. I'm pretty sure the video quality is worse than the video camera that you used to make your sequel. It's probably worse than that. It is beyond, like, there's good movies, there's bad movies, there's cheesy movies, and there's movies that are good because they're bad. And there is a scale, and you can go, this is just too bad.
Yeah.
And that movie is just down there, and I'm like, but anyway, so it doesn't make it okay, right? Like, we're in a day and age now where anybody could put out any number of things in their own way, and that's great. That's fantastic. But yeah, if I'm gonna spend money at a movie theater, which in and of itself is ridiculously expensive nowadays,
right?
We are lucky that we have a movie theater that is still sub $10 per ticket,
right?
But it is that most theaters are ridiculously expensive. Most of the theaters around here have closed up. They've all gone out of business. Right. So if you can actually if you are a major movie theater being released, there should still be standards that you have to actually abide by. No, an award-winning movie isn't the standard that we have.
Right.
But if people go into certain movies looking for that, their expectations are probably set incorrectly.
Sure, I agree with that.
So just to counter your point, Nick, about those movies were for someone, like bringing people into the franchise. Those came out when the 2012 cartoon was like at its height. So there was no need for those movies. They definitely did it just for a cash grab. And honestly, people are going to get into the Turtles. That 2012 series is fantastic.
That's the best one.
It's amazing. So those movies, I'm glad we got Mutant Mayhem though. I enjoy Mutant Mayhem.
That was fun. I liked it.
But the 2012 was fantastic, and you got Mr. Hothead there, Sean Astin as Raphael.
That's right.
Back to the Goonies.
I think, and I can't swear to this. I think there's a pretty good chance this might be the first podcast episode in the history of podcasting to mention the movie Vampires.
Nick's done it before.
It might be the first time ever. You've mentioned on the show before.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because I think what you should do is get word to the creators of Vampires that you talked about in this show and like get them on board to market and be like, because even if you said it was terrible, they would probably be thrilled to be getting somebody talking about it. Just throwing it out there.
So I'm gonna tie something else in real quick. Have you seen the Clerks cartoon?
Oh my God, I love it. Why is Bear driving the car?
Oh my God, Bear is driving. How could that be?
So it's like when the quicker stop is open, right?
Yeah.
And they're trying everything they can to get a sale at the quick stop. You know, he puts up the sign, pay as you exit. Isn't that what they're already doing? All that stuff. And they get a sale. And after all the coupons and stuff, and the ladies got a credit, it was like 5 cents.
Yeah.
And then it shows the quicker stop with Leonardo, and it's like, what? The quick stop sales have gone up 10,000%. That's vampires like streams. After Nick mentioned them, Nick mentions them, and then they get a little fax saying our streams have gone up 10,000%.
Fantastic. You know what? That's our niche, Mike, is finding bad movies and mentioning them, so that's people are like,
but
that
not
movie
just bad.
exists.
Like, I mean, you know, like world class bad. Like they have to have like some notoriety to how bad they are. You know what I mean? Like,
they can't be good bad like trauma movies. They got to be like bad.
No, that's right. Like, and that's why I said, like, there's levels, and then you go like negative levels, and then there's like an actual end, and it's just like there's just nothing there.
Right.
And my ADD is kicking in again. Speaking of trauma, it doesn't look like we're getting the new Toxic Avenger movie, and I'm so sad about that. It like lost its studio. Like, it's done, it's edited. They've
filmed already.
Yeah, they released a teaser trailer, and they showed it at like a film festival, but there's no studio backing it anymore, so there's no like release.
Look, Fanboys took many years to come out in multiple full on like recorded. I'm like,
dude, that was the best. That movie literally had the best ending.
It took forever, but we did get it, right? Like, we got it. So, and at this point in time, at this day and age, nothing's off the table at any point in time, except for maybe Batwoman.
I was just about to say, except for Batwoman, that's the one. Batgirl.
I mean,
whichever one it was, but
also anything
that
they've pulled.
Like, I mean, I don't want to see a film get shelved, but I'm not a fan of Toxic Avenger, the original. Like, I get it's got its big cult following, and I just not a fan.
My heartstrings are for the cartoon.
That's fair. See, I didn't watch the cartoon, so I think I know people really like the cartoon, so that's probably more what it's about. But that original movie and the sequels I've only seen the first film. I haven't really watched the sequels except bits and pieces, but I'm not a fan. Even in the,
I think I'm with Mike. The cartoon was the way to get us hooked, and when we were old enough to understand that there was live action movies, like
you wanted more of it and stuff like that. So,
I mean, it's just one of those examples of the 90s and 2000s of like making cartoons out of movies that should never have been made. I mean, literally in the original movie, there's people running over a kid on a bicycle wearing a helmet for fun. Getting points for it, and then they were like, let's turn that into a kids cartoon. That's a great idea. You know what I mean? It's like one of those, just like the Rambo cartoon and all that stuff.
I was gonna say, we got the Rambo cartoon, you know, they marketed Aliens, Predator to kids. It's
I know it's fascinating,
but we also got the New Kids on the Block and MC Hammer.
This is true. Yeah, hard to argue with that.
Which
what the heck?
I don't know why, but when I was a kid, I had an MC Hammer doll. It was fantastic. He had his jamming pajamas and a little boombox. When you press the button, it would just go.
I know why, because that's awesome.
I don't know.
If they had a Vanilla Ice doll, I would have been all over that. Let me tell you.
I mean, Rob Van Winkle's like, he's legit, man.
I know there probably is one out there somewhere, but
MC Hammer's too legit. Rob Van Winkle is legit.
Too legit, too quick.
I got it. I got moves.
Now he's the
Not
Reverend.
He's the Reverend. Cut it out.
You remember The Surreal Life? You ever see that show, The Surreal Life?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Remember when he was on it and he was like best friends with Emmanuel Lewis?
Yeah, I haven't thought about that in a long time, but that was fascinating.
I missed that show. You know what show just came back after like 20 years? Have you ever heard of the Joe Schmo Show?
Oh yeah, I love Joe Schmo Show. Are you kidding me? The original is great. I saw
the new one. The new one just premiered last week.
I haven't seen it. Is it any good?
That's good.
Yeah.
So far it's good. Do you remember Jonathan Lipnicki?
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's in it.
From Jerry Maguire. Yeah.
Yeah, he's in it, and he's the asshole celebrity. That's his character in it. So he plays himself, but as a played up asshole. And it's so funny. He's like walking around like all pompous and stuff. And he was like, I was in Jerry Maguire. And like Mike.
Yeah.
Is that or Stuart Little? And he's like, Stuart Little. And he's like, both of them were nominated for Oscars. They're like, and all the other people are like, Stuart Little wasn't nominated for Oscars. Like, yeah, it was for sound. And he's like,
that's amazing.
He was also in like Mike, just for clarity.
Yeah. But I was trying to remember what movie he said, and it was Stuart Little. But oh my god, dude, the Joe Schmo show. I love that when it first came out 20-something years ago.
It's so good.
And then they did 2 more seasons.
Yeah.
And then people kind of caught on, and then it's been gone for 20 years, and now it's back. And it's like the whole thing is there's a fake Japanese game show that they brought to America, and this is the premiere of that Japanese game show in America. So it's all like this stupid over the top shit and they're getting away with it because it's like, oh, it's a Japanese game show, it makes sense.
Game challenge,
yeah. It's I was so excited.
See the commercials. I just haven't watched it yet. I don't think I realized it actually premiered, so I'm gonna have to check that out.
That almost went nowhere too because it lost its studio.
Right.
And I'm so glad TBS landed it.
Yeah.
I love it. Just like do you see is Amazon Prime Jury Duty? Yeah. That was so good.
Incredible. James Marsden. I'm so glad he got nominated for an Emmy for that because he's outstanding. That was brilliant. We were and I watched that together and we were just addicted to it. It's one of the best things I've ever seen. Like they pulled it off so well.
The best is like he's the reason they got sequestered and everything. Like
they did it so well. And the guy they picked such the best person for it.
Like, my god.
It would not have worked with a lot of people, like but it's I can't recommend that show.
The fact that he didn't know who James Marsden was at first or whatever.
Right.
And he's like, I went home and I watched Sex Drive and
of all movies too, to be the one
of all movies.
Dude, that movie's great. It's hilarious. Hey, the Mitsubishi Eclipse and Fast and Furious is in it. Come on.
I watched it when it came out, and I haven't seen it since then. So my memory of it is almost non-existent. But it's just, still, even if it is,
have you watched?
Doesn't bring like X-Men or 27 Dresses or any of those things or Superman. It's
Sonic.
Yeah.
That's great.
But no, that movie.
James Marsden was doing a press junket with Jason Schwartz and someone else. I forget who else was in the movie. It's not Keanu Reeves. It's not Jim Carrey. And they're doing a press junket. And James Marsden answered every question was an answer about X-Men.
He's great.
It's so good.
That's awesome.
Back on. So I think the first time I watched Sex Drive was a DVD rental. Mm-hmm. And it was like the unrated version is on the same.
Oh, disc. It's so stupid.
Like what I'm talking about. Like that was a big thing in like the late 2000s. Oh, yeah. They put them both on the same disc.
Yep.
So I was, and like there's a warning on it. It's like don't watch this unless you've already seen the movie. It is a completely different experience. And
stupid. It's so dumb.
It is. It is a very interesting experience because what is like it is the movie. And then in front of the movie, there's a naked girl that just dances across the screen periodically.
It's so stupid.
That's the entire difference.
Seriously,
there's no extra scenes.
That's the best thing I've ever heard. I mean,
I was like, that's what I said. I was like, this is fantastic.
Points for creativity. That's something different.
Right?
Somebody else has done. Oh
right?
My God.
And we had what was it last weekend? We actually introduced a kid to X-Men for the first time. So James Marsden is like right there, and because we're watching all the X-Men movies to lead up into maybe letting our kid watch Deadpool. So
I believe there's actually an unrated version of the Goonies, and there's a naked woman dancing in front of it. It's Mama Fratelli, so it's kind of a mixed bag. You know what I mean?
It
depends.
It could be. I don't know. Could be interesting. We don't know.
Right. It's very interesting.
As long as it's not Joey Pants.
That's what I was gonna say.
I
As
don't
long
know.
as it's
I'd
not Joey
rather watch
Pants.
Joey Pants than Mama Fratelli, but
You mean, yeah, come on, Francis.
yeah.
You got to see Francis. He's a good
Exactly.
dude. He's a good dude.
The Goonies. It's actually one of the first movies we showed. Like, so my 11-year-old I started dating his mom like 5 years ago, and it was like one of the first movies we showed him to like bring him into like watching newer expanding his horizons and showing him things that he would never watch by himself.
Right.
Like Turtles in Turtles 2 Out of the Shadows. Anyway,
Nick, it's pronounced turd holes.
I know
those movies were turds.
So anyway, but no, he loved the movie, absolutely loved the movie. And then, we actually went on a road trip because they lived in Washington. We went to Astoria.
Yeah, right.
And they turned the jailhouse into like into a like souvenir shop, and you can take photos inside the jailhouse and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I talked about it once before. I found my replica coins and have since lost them again. One of these days I won't lose them.
Right.
But it's like replica coins from the ship, and then I did get like a pendant that looks like the whatever. Exactly. And like I got him like a Goonies shirt and stuff like that. And but it's a lot of fun, and we tried to take photos at the Goonies at Mikey's house.
Yeah.
But the owner of the house literally like was coming home from grocery shopping and stopped at the bottom of their hill and wouldn't let anybody go up it because they wanted their privacy. And I'm like, how do you buy a movie house? How do you buy a movie house and not just be like,
yeah,
I get it.
I feel like that's a little on you.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you know what you're buying. Like, don't buy that. If you value your privacy, just don't buy it.
Yeah.
I'm glad they sold it. I don't remember what happened to it after they sold it, but yeah. So we drove around trying to find like a back way to sneak up instead of like just straight up like going down the cul-de-sac to drive up it. Like, we drove around and like I was trying to figure out like another way to like sneak up, take photos of it. And I got some pretty decent photos, but they are relatively at a distance.
Right.
But, driving into Astoria, there's this ridiculous bridge. And it's a terrifying bridge.
Oh, really?
Because going into Astoria and leaving, it's like this of a climb.
Oh. And
I'm like, it was I was in like the rented SUV. I was like, I don't know how to drive this thing. This is
right.
This is a horrible idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and that started his love of being introduced to everything that we shove at him now.
Right.
Like,
very cool. I like it.
It is he enjoys all the movies.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, he's got good taste, clearly.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't?
Right.
Like, I think Goonies is one of those movies you can find very few people who actually dislike.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever met anybody who's ever been like, I hate the Goonies. You know what I mean? Like, some people are more fans than others, but I don't know that I've ever met anybody who just outright hates it. So
yeah, I can't say I've ever met anybody either.
Right, that's a good thing.
Yeah, your best bet is you just haven't watched it yet.
That's right. Either you love it or you haven't seen it.
Exactly. There's those two camps. You know, you can't be anywhere else. So if you say you don't like it, you must not have seen the right movie.
That's right.
Come on, you're probably watching, something else. I don't know what, but
Sex Drive Unrated.
Goonies with a Z.
Yeah, right.
Oh my God, Goon Payas.
Yeah.
Or snakes on a train.
They're trying to take over the Goondocks.
Right.
Suck people's blood.
Only
I don't know where I'm going with that. But only at night, yes. If you notice, you never see that nothing happens at night in that movie, right? It's all during the day.
Right.
So who knows?
Well,
who
Corey
knows?
Feldman knows how to kill a vampire, so.
So all comes back together. All comes back.
Exactly.
All right, Mike. This was great. I told you we would go on a bunch of tangents,
Oh, yeah.
and we did, and they were perfect. But before we cut you loose, why don't you let everybody know what you got going on and where they can find you?
Sure. A bunch of places. The main thing that I want to point people towards, again, is the book that I mentioned. It's called I Want My $2, Guide to 20 of the Best Cult Classics of the 80s. So you obviously catch that reference. And that is, depending on when this airs, either live on Kickstarter or just about to be live on Kickstarter. And I don't know if you guys want a URL, or if you may just say the URL, or if you want to share it, however you want to do that.
Yeah, we can do both. We'll put it in the comment or the description, and you can say it out too.
If anybody wants to audio listen and figure it out, it's tinyurl.com/80s cult classics. That's 80s cult classics. So that's where it'll take you to the landing page, and either you can sign up to be notified when it goes live, or it will be live by the time you hear this. And that's going to be on Kickstarter. And then my comic books that I write, you can find out more about at outoftimecomics.com. Out of time spelled just like it sounds, OUTTA time.comics.com. And then my podcast is After the Ending, which you can find anywhere you listen to podcasts, as I'm sure most people have figured out by now. So that's where you can find me and my stuff.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Appreciate
Thanks
it,
for
guys.
joining us.
Yeah.